The executioner's boots landed with a controlled thud. The scent of ozone and metal filled the air as her cloaking device disengaged. A faint shimmer faded, revealing the deadly form of RHA Zev, enforcer of the XY Dominion. She reached for her blade, primed for a swift, efficient kill, then hesitated. The human was eating. Not barricading himself, not preparing for combat. Just standing there, half-dressed, chewing something like he had all the time in the world. A grin spread across his lips as he swallowed, wiped his mouth with the back of his hand, and, infuriatingly, winked. Well, damn. If I knew bounty hunters looked like that, I'd have caused trouble sooner. RHA Zev tilted her head, scanning for sarcasm, but his heart rate didn't spike. He wasn't afraid. Not even a little. Nathan Cross, she stated coldly. You have been deemed a threat to the Dominion. Your execution is required. He sighed dramatically. Damn, straight to the hard stuff? No introduction? No little, hey Nathan, how's your day been? You aliens are so impersonal. She blinked. That wasn't a normal response. Did he not comprehend the gravity of his situation? Her voice sharpened. You are to die. Now. He tossed his sandwich onto the counter, stretched lazily, then gave her a once-over that was entirely inappropriate for a death sentence situation. Okay, but is it gonna hurt? 'Cause if you're gonna get all rough with me, I'd at least like a little foreplay first. Her grip on her weapon faltered. What? For the first time in her career, her target was flirting. Her eyes narrowed. You mock me? I don't know what I'm doing yet. Nathan stepped closer, unconcerned, his smirk widening. I mean executioner? Leather? Boots? That stance? If you weren't about to kill me, I'd say we were about to have a very different kind of negotiation. He had the audacity to let his gaze trail down her form like he was assessing a meal instead of his murderer. RHA Zev's claws flexed. She should just end this. But he kept talking. Do you even know how sexy you sound? Your execution is required. He mimicked in a husky growl. Woman, at least buy me dinner first. Her brow twitched. You will not distract me with primitive. Who's distracting? I'm just saying, you could have walked in here and shot me. But no, you decloaked dramatically, gave me the cold, dominant stare, and announced my fate like some space warlord's personal mistress. His smile sharpened. You sure you came here to end me and not just claim me? RHA Zev's blade wavered a fraction. What the hell was this human? I am here to fulfill my orders, she said stiffly. Nathan nodded sagely. Right. And you always follow orders. Something about the way he said it made her gut tighten. His tone was casual, but the weight behind it was anything but. She stepped forward, expecting him to step back. He didn't. Instead, he tilted his head, looking her over with analyzing amusement. So, real talk. If you weren't here to kill me, what would you be doing right now? She frowned. Irrelevant. Oh, it's super relevant. 'Cause see, I just realized something. He leaned in conspiratorially. You've been standing there for a full 2 minutes, and you haven't killed me. That's gotta be, what? A record? You hesitated, sweetheart. She hated that he was right. RHA Zev prided herself on precision. Hesitation was weakness. And yet here she was, wasting time talking instead of carrying out her mission. Nathan smirked. What's the problem? Finding me too captivating? The sheer cockiness of it nearly made her lash out on instinct. But that reaction was exactly what he wanted. She exhaled sharply. Your arrogance is unwarranted. Yeah? So kill me. She froze. He spread his arms in invitation. Completely unafraid. Her body refused to move. Nathan watched her closely. Huh. Guess you can't, huh? He grinned. Kinda weird how your big scary assassin instincts just aren't kicking in. She clenched her jaw. This had to be some kind of trick. Some psychological tactic. Humans were deceivers, capable of manipulating emotions, but she was trained against such tactics. And yet, she couldn't do it. Not because she lacked the will, but because something deep inside her whispered that she wasn't supposed to. Nathan watched something shift behind her gaze. The sharp, cold certainty of an assassin wavered. Just for a second. Then he smirked. Yeah. That's what I thought. Rhazev didn't like that answer. And she definitely didn't like the way her stomach tightened at his confidence. This human was dangerous. Not because of his combat prowess. Not because of his weapons. Because somehow, in the span of 3 minutes, he had done something no enemy ever had. He made her question her orders. You know, for an executioner, you're really bad at executing, Nathan said, still grinning like he wasn't tied to a chair with alien restraints. You hesitated back there. Big, bad assassin having second thoughts? Rhazev ignored the taunt, pacing in front of him with stiff, deliberate movements. She had him where she wanted, restrained, vulnerable, but the victory felt hollow. He wasn't afraid. He wasn't even pretending to be. State your crimes, she commanded. Nathan raised an eyebrow. Is this the part where I beg for my life? Or are you just looking for an excuse to keep me around? Her jaw clenched. Your interference with Dominion operations has resulted in countless inefficiencies. You have disrupted military supply chains, infiltrated restricted zones, and stolen a senator's wife. Nathan finished for her, smirking. Look, that one was totally her idea. You ex-Wytheri really need to teach your elites about open relationships. Rhazev's claws flexed. You mock justice. Sweetheart, if this is justice, then I've been a very bad boy. His voice dipped just enough to make her pause, and he knew it. The damn human was playing with her, testing boundaries she didn't even know she had. I should gut you for your insolence, she said, stepping closer. And yet, here I am. Still breathing. Still very much tied up. He tilted his head, watching her. Unless you're just into that kind of thing? Her nostrils flared. Ex-Wytheri interrogations were meant to break subjects down, make them pliable, compliant. Instead, he was turning the interrogation on her. She grabbed his chin roughly, forcing him to meet her gaze. What is the human male's most vulnerable point? Nathan's smirk widened. Oh, honey, I could give you a list. His eyes flicked to her lips, just for a second, but she caught it. It sent a foreign heat curling through her gut, and she hated it. You are not in control here, she snapped. Funny, he said, voice low. I was just about to say the same thing. She expected another joke, another grin, but for the first time, his expression shifted. Something quieter lurked beneath the amusement, something far more dangerous. You don't want to kill me, he said simply. She stiffened. Your life is irrelevant. Yeah? Then why are we talking? She didn't have an answer for that. See, here's the thing, he continued, leaning forward as far as his restraints allowed. You ex-Wytheri are all about dominance, right? Power? Control? But real control isn't just about killing. It's about making choices. And right now, you're realizing you've never really made one. Her muscles coiled. He was too perceptive, too quick to dismantle her carefully built walls. You know what I think? Nathan said, voice dropping into something smooth and knowing. I think you don't want to be their weapon anymore. She snarled, grabbing his throat, not to choke, just to shut him up, but he didn't flinch. He just smirked, eyes burning with something that made her breath hitch. That's cute, he murmured, voice teasing but heavy with something deeper. You trying to scare me? 'Cause all I'm thinking about is how warm your hands are. Her grip tightened instinctively, but the reaction only made him grin wider. He liked pushing her. And worse, some primal part of her liked being pushed. She released him abruptly, stepping back. His throat bobbed slightly as he swallowed, but his expression never wavered. I will find your weakness, she said, forcing herself to regain control. Sweetheart, I already told you, he said, cocking his head. It's you. Her breath caught. That hesitation back there? He said. That wasn't an accident. You saw something in me. And now you're wondering what else you might be missing. She should kill him. Right now. And this before it got worse. But her claws remained still. Nathan's smile softened, just slightly. So, what's it gonna be, executioner? You following orders? Or are you finally making a choice of your own? You talk too much, Rhazev muttered, pacing once more, trying to ignore the way her claws twitched. Nathan smirked. Only because you listen. That stopped her mid-step. She turned, eyes narrowing. I do not listen. I observe. Tomato, tomato, he said with a lazy shrug. If you really wanted me dead, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Her tail flicked, betraying the irritation she refused to acknowledge. You assume too much. Do I? His voice dipped, low and smooth, his gaze flicking over her deliberately. I think I'm pretty spot on. Her fingers twitched again. She didn't like this. Didn't like the way her body reacted before her mind could stop it. XY operatives weren't supposed to be curious. They weren't supposed to doubt. And yet, here she was, letting a human crawl under her skin like an irritating parasite with a smug mouth. You are testing my patience, she growled. Nathan grinned. That's funny, 'cause I'm testing a lot of things right now. His tone dropped, words dripping with suggestion. Her eyes darkened. Enough. Make me. The challenge in his voice was deliberate. He wanted her to react. He was waiting to see just how much control she really had. And the worst part? She didn't know the answer. She stalked toward him, looming over his bound form, watching his expression carefully. No fear. No apprehension. Just a slow-burning defiance that made her pulse tick up. You think this is a game? She asked. Nathan's lips quirked. I think you don't know what to do with me. Her claws flexed. There was an urge, a restless energy coiling beneath her skin, something primal and wrong and dangerous. She had been trained to suppress emotion, to function as a tool of execution, to operate without hesitation. But with him, there was always hesitation. It made no sense. She grasped his jaw roughly, tilting his head up. His skin was warm, his breath steady. You should be afraid, she murmured. Nathan's grin never wavered. And yet, here I am. Still very much not afraid. She hated it. She hated that she believed him. His gaze softened, just enough to make her chest feel too tight. You're hesitating again. Her grip faltered. He was right. And they both knew it. The realization sent a sharp jolt through her, something raw and infuriatingly human. I should kill you, she whispered. Nathan tilted his head. You should. But we both know you won't. The silence stretched, thick with unspoken tension. Then, finally, she exhaled, hating every second of it. I hate humans, she muttered. Nathan chuckled, voice like velvet. You're getting there, sweetheart. One step at a time. Rhazev stood still, claws curling and uncurling at her sides. The order was simple. Kill the human. End the mission. And yet she had let the moment pass. Not once. Not twice. But 4 times. Nathan's gaze was steady, the usual smirk replaced with something quieter, sharper. So what now? Her jaw clenched. You are a criminal. You have disrupted Dominion order. Your actions have caused widespread inefficiency. Termination is the only acceptable outcome. He exhaled dramatically. You keep saying that, but here I am, still breathing. You sure you're that committed to the cause? Her hand twitched toward her weapon. You assume I will not finish my task. Nathan raised an eyebrow. No. I assume you already decided not to. The words struck deeper than they should have. Her grip tightened. This human was dangerous, not physically. Not militarily. But because he had somehow made her hesitate. Hesitation was death. Yet, she still hadn't pulled the trigger. You don't know anything about me, she said. Nathan leaned back slightly, studying her with that infuriatingly confident expression. I know that you're still here. She exhaled sharply. You are an irritant. And you're stalling. Her fingers itched to do something, anything to break this moment before it became something she couldn't control. You believe yourself special? She asked, voice low. You are not the first target to resist. You are not the first to think you could change an outcome already decided. Nathan smiled, slow and knowing. I bet I'm the first you wanted to. Her chest tightened. Enough. Her blade was at his throat in an instant. He didn't flinch. If anything, he leaned into it. His breath ghosted over her knuckles. Go on, executioner. Do it. She didn't. The air was thick between them, tension pulsing in ways it shouldn't. Nathan's voice dipped, softer now. You've already made your choice. You just don't want to admit it. Her fingers trembled. Damn him. Say it, he murmured. Say you won't. Her lips parted. No words came. Nathan leaned forward, just enough for the blade to graze his skin. Say it. Rhazev's grip finally loosened. The blade fell away. She had failed her mission. But for the first time in her life, she had made her own decision.